Before I get into this video on, is infrared generation 1 worth it or not versus just using a good quality, binoculars like Leopold's or something. This is out of my night vision. Well, it's not infrared. It's just real good low light camera. It's probably about 13 years old. It still freaking works, but it's really high quality way back when I bought it. Now, click on play, and you see that flashlight looking thing that's on the clock? Now, it looks a little washed out because of the focus in this camera's not doing too great, but I just want to point out that a good quality low light camera, you can have no lights on, and if you just go ahead and have an infrared floodlight, you're going to see like the whole area is going to look like daylight all the way. You understand what I'm saying? That was just a little infrared on the top of the generation night vision used with a special low light security camera, and you can't see it by your eye, but the camera picks it up on here perfectly. So, to give you one example, one idea where you can run security cameras with floodlights that are for low light without having infrared in the camera at all, but just have separate floodlights, in different areas around the camera, and you'll be able to see out there hundreds of feet, and nobody will know you're looking at them. It'll be way better than the crap that comes with the camera. You want to get separate infrared floodlights. Just want to throw that out there before I get into this other subject we're going to be talking about, comparing generation 1 with just plain old good quality or decent quality binoculars. I'm not really a fan of generation 1 night vision. Well, let's see what this looks like. Well, it does look a hell of a lot brighter on the camera, but in real life it doesn't really look that way. But it's a lot more blurry. You don't have as much zoom, and it's not, well, it's just not as clear as a picture, that's all. And if you turn on the infrared, I don't know what that's going to do actually. There we go, infrared's on. But if you have a spotlight out there with infrared, you'll probably be doing okay with this damn thing. But I'm not too much of a fan of this night vision stuff, unless you're going to spend at least $1,300 and get generation 2 or maybe $2,000 or something. It's not that great. It's not that clear of an image. And if you were zooming in with this thing, hang it up, it would be really dull. Now, where this really shines good is if you're using the infrared. So I got this on my boat, and if we turn the infrared off, well, it's still showing up pretty good. But you know what it is? It's the camera. It's a camera lens picks up better than what I could see with my eye. If we turn the infrared on, you could see the spotlight out there. That's interesting. So you know what? One way to really make a generation 1 do a lot better is if you can actually have a camera, like a low light camera, videotaping something or something on a monitor, and then have the infrared out there versus, I don't know, it's boosting it up even more. Because I can't, when I look through this lens without the camera on, it doesn't show up like that. When I turn this off, it's not that clear. It's not that clear, not in the least. Not in the least. So that's an interesting little thesis there. So there's probably a way to, boost up your generation 1 if you're using it in conjunction with a low light camera, because then you're double boosting it. Maybe that's what generation 2 is. I really don't know. But the one advantage you got is, like, if you are in total darkness and you have a infrared floodlight out there and you don't use your infrared on your night vision, where you got that little red dot, but you're using a floodlight and you're like, say, from your house or some location, well, in that case, they're not going to be able to see you, and you'll be able to see them, because you're not going to be using infrared from your device itself. So that's one thing. And I noticed that the camera, even if you're using, like that one camera I have, doesn't have infrared lights on it, but it has very, very, very good low light capability. So when I add infrared to it, it looks like a bright flashlight. So I'll turn off the infrared, turn it on. You can see it's on. Let's see, get that down there. It's on the fence. Shut it off. Turn it on. And I can't see this. And actually, what you're looking at through the camera, it doesn't even come out anywhere near as good. On the camera, it comes out much, brighter than when you're looking through it through the naked eye. So that's interesting in itself. So there's probably a way to improve Generation 1 night vision drastically if you're hooking another camera to it. So, but generally speaking, the Leopolds are far better when you're looking at it through the naked eye than you are with the Generation 1. As long as you got some kind of light. As long as you got a little bit of light. The problem is, with the Leopolds, I don't think the infrared does anything for it, and I can probably take that right out right now. Yeah, and by the way, I have been using the Bataroo product on this night vision. It probably worked fine. I don't know if it works in Bataroo. I'm sure it doesn't work in every application, but it probably work on something old like this. It's a Chinese-made night vision, night owl optics. I don't know if that works. Now, one thing I know about this device, it doesn't like rechargeable batteries because they're only 1.2 volts. So I had these Rayovacs in here. I used to like using Rayovac. They're cheaper and just as good as the other brands. But I do have a bunch of these Panasonic Antelope rechargeables, and they stay charged a long time. They're nickel metal hydride, but since the rechargeables are 1.2 volts, and this thing doesn't like 1.2 volt batteries, it likes alkaline 1.5. But if you have the Bataroo sleeve in there, you're up to 1.5 volts. But you're not supposed to use the Bataroo sleeve with rechargeables because it can bring them down too far. And but what I'm going to do is, since I got a slew of them over here, I got more than that. I'm not going to leave it in this device. I'm not going to use it for too many hours. I'm going to use these rechargeables in here with the Bataroo sleeve, not too many hours, and recharge them with the Bedini Renaissance, what do you call that, battery rejuvenator charger, universal jobber. And as long as I don't run these down too far, they'll work fine with the Bataroo sleeve. And that Bedini charger, it's kind of funny. Like, they'll tell you, it's not funny, they'll tell you can't charge lithium batteries with it. Well, that's because lithium, and I'm just throwing this in here as a side note, but that's because lithium batteries will just keep taking the charge forever and they'll just be damaged. So, like, they have a cutoff voltage. And, well, as long as you know that, like, the charger has a cutoff voltage on a lithium battery charger, and it cuts it off right there. It's a balance between life of the battery and performance. Well, as long as you're measuring that voltage and you're keeping it on a low charge, I was able to charge even the lithium batteries with that Bedini charger, as long as I don't just leave it on there and I monitor the voltage. So, it's akin to like using the Bataroo product the wrong way with rechargeables for devices that don't like rechargeables, as long as you don't run them down too far. And I've been finding out the performance on this is fine with the Bataroo. And I'm not going to freaking put Bataroo in the comments or the title or in the AdWords anywhere or nothing, or description or whatever. I don't want any trolls, but we're going to find out about this product quick enough, probably this weekend, maybe early next weekend. But generally speaking, I'm not that happy with Generation 1. Where I think this thing would really shine is if you have up infrared floodlights and they're around your place where you usually want to check out, and it looks dark to regular people, and you use this without the infrared, and you got the infrared floodlights going everywhere. This thing is going to show up like daylight, whereas if you're using infrared with this, it's not going to show anything. And if you're using infrared with a low light, a good quality low light camera, it's going to show up everything too, and yet you will not be observed very easily. They'll just see an infrared spotlight somewhere, but they don't know where you're looking from. So those are considerations. I guess that's the main use for this. I found even for if you're looking up at the stars, this isn't as good as this. And these aren't the best loopholes. They're just, I don't know, they're a Chinese version of they're made in China. They're okay. I think they're like $130 or something. 8 power by 30 millimeter objective lens. Actually, I got 2 pairs of these suckers. One's a spare backup. So, I don't go too crazy with quality, but I don't like getting the worst junk either. So, it's kind of like the middle of the road usually. But I'm not a fan of Generation 1. I think that's the only application you have is if you have floodlights out there that are infrared, and it's a place you're going to be looking at, you want to look out, and you don't want the lights being obvious to people. Then, if you have infrared floodlights and you use that, this thing really, really works great.